What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
Hi. I'm just going to say something real quick, and then we're going to get into it because this is kind of a bigger, longer, I think, episode. Last week, we had one of Sierra's friends' husbands went missing. We did this whole thing about looking for him. We were going to post all this information. And then literally the day before the podcast came out, he was located safe. And so I deleted all that stuff. But it made me think I need to make this well known on this podcast. I just did this on Fatal Blend, actually, too. If you are somebody who has a missing person in your life, or if there is somebody that you always, please feel free to reach out to us by emailing us at crimebpodcast@gmail.com, because if you email us, or you can hit us up on the socials and share with us the information, we will gladly take the beginning and the end of episodes to shout out the people that we are looking for or missing, and we will post links or pictures of them all over our Instagram and all over our TikTok. And we will also post it in the show notes so that we can get the name and the words out there, because that was a very scary experience to have somebody missing for like 5 days, or it was 5 days, 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So to have somebody missing with no knowledge of where they went, and literally it's nothing against the police department, but they don't really try that hard because there's so many missing people. So I feel the more people out there that can help, the better. So I wanted to make that very clear. We are a true crime podcast. Doesn't necessarily mean it always has to be about murder. We would love to assist in any way we can on helping people find their loved ones. So I wanted to make that clear, because I had to cut all that out of last week's episode because he was found, and I didn't want to blast it out there, especially because he had been found, because I didn't want to like put it in there and then all of a sudden be like, oh, by the way, he was found. It's kind of unnecessary at that point, but I thought it was still an important message to share.
Well, on a lighter note, I know it won't come out, obviously, but so I guess happy late Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
We're recording this on Mother's
Day.
Yes, happy Mother's Day to all of those mothers, dog
grandmas,
wannabe moms, stepmoms, all of them. If you're
any type of
motherly type, this day is for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then one other thing, I don't know if Sierra saw this or not. Did you see they found a 10th body in the Willamette River? So again, we talked about this before.
Did you also see they're doing a Dateline episode of the Idaho 4?
No, I did not.
And apparently there's new information coming out that I just saw on TikTok that he, as in Brian, I didn't see the whole TikTok because it was right before we started this, but apparently he got exhausted after 2 of the murders and kind of sat in the room and hung out. So there's more information with that. And then I've also seen a new thing where...
Wait, what?
Yeah. Apparently there's new information. I don't know if it's actually accurate or not, but...
If that's true, that doesn't even make sense, because he supposedly committed murders of 4 people in 10 minutes.
What's interesting too is now there's a bunch of people coming out and saying that the car it's not the correct car. That the car color isn't even correct.
This is what I'm talking about. This is why last week we had talked about being a juror.
Apparently there was a green one that even after the murders was around the house, and when they were destroying the house was around the house, and it was the same make and model, but it was green.
Well, we had talked about this last week about wanting to be a juror, and I said there's no way I'd want to be a juror on the Brian Kohberger case because there's so much evidence for and against. Like, I can honestly say, I'm going to call it right now.
Or at least I think it's Dateline. Don't quote me on that. But I know there's a episode thing coming out about the Idaho 4.
I'm going to call it right now. I think that this is going to end in a mistrial. And I don't mean that he'll be found guilty, because I don't think that they're going to be able to unanimously find him guilty.
I think there's another person.
I think it's going to be found a mistrial, and he's going to have to be retried again. And I think that it's not going to have the closure that people want, because there's way too much weird fucking information.
Well, not only that, but first and foremost, y'all fucking destroyed the crime scene.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Which was the biggest mistake you could ever make in a fucking unsolved crime.
Unsolved crime, and also not even convicted.
Well, I was just going to say, even if you have him in custody. His trial hadn't
even started yet when they fucking tore that
even
down.
if you have him in custody, until he is found guilty.
Yeah.
It is still an unsolved crime.
This is why we say innocent until proven guilty, because you have
That's
to prove
the whole
that he's
fucking
guilty.
point of that.
I'm really annoyed by that case. I think that I feel really bad for the families of the kids that were murdered, because I think that the Idaho Police Department, the Moscow, Idaho Police Department, did not do them justice. They did not do their due diligence. And to be fair, that's a little tiny town. So I get
the
it.
Moscow Police Department, what they should have done.
They didn't do it.
As soon as this happened and they saw how gruesome and how extensive this crime was, first thing they should have done is either brought it to Idaho State Police or FBI at that point.
They should have brought it straight to the FBI.
I mean,
I
that's
know
what
the
I
FBI
think too.
ended up coming into it later.
They did, but that's the thing is they came into it. So all the initial shit should have been,
you know
really
what this is?
FBI should have been
This
involved.
literally reminds me of the John Benet Ramsey thing.
100%.
It's going to be a botched fucking shit by the police officers. And so even if it is Brian Kohberger, they literally have, in my opinion, they sealed his fate in having a mistrial.
I need to
because
go
there's
back.
way too much information that does not fucking make sense. And they were very quick to point the finger at one person when they didn't, like, I don't even know how they came up with the information that they came up with, you know?
Well, I need to go back and actually re-look at all the details, because when it initially happened, I was super invested in it. And then when they found Brian Kohberger, and then they were like slowly releasing
and they still have a gag order on it. They don't even tell you much of what's going
that's what
on.
I'm saying. Like, they were slowly releasing bits and pieces, but there was just so much information. And then it was like you didn't fucking hear anything about it because they've been in trial and all these things. So I need to go back and actually like research all of it just for my own knowledge. I mean, obviously it's nothing I can say or do is going to change the outcome, obviously.
Yeah,
but
just
so that I'm more informed about it.
Right. It annoys me. But on the other hand, it also, again, this talks about annoying police things. With the Portland Willamette River thing, they've pulled the 10th body out. They're literally not saying anything about any of the bodies. They have yet to confirm identities. They have yet to confirm how these people died. But the only thing they've done is the police department came out and made a statement and said, we've had a lot of inquiries into the amount of bodies that we found that came out of the Willamette. And we'll just say this is relatively normal for this time of year. I have lived in the Pacific Northwest for 25 fucking years. And I have never in my life heard of 10 bodies just randomly showing up in the Willamette River. Ever.
The only connection that I've seen so far that the bodies all have is the fact that they were found in the Willamette, because they haven't announced like, oh, if they all had the same MO of how they died, or because
they're saying
and they came out
they said it was homeless people that committed suicide. That's what they're trying to tell
and
people.
They did come out and they did say that they don't think that there is a serial killer in Portland, and all of the people in Portland,
nobody in Portland,
and even
believes
Vancouver
it.
Are like,
when I'm reading
bitch.
Like people's I'm reading people's like comments on this, and people are literally saying things like one lady was like, I'm 45 years old. I've lived and grown up in Portland my entire life, and I've never heard of this many bodies showing up. Nobody believes it. And also statistically, I just want to scare everybody into knowing this. If there's a serial killer, the police, the FBI, everybody, they don't want to tell you unless it's absolutely necessary, because they don't want to cause panic. So right. I firmly still believe that there is the potential of a serial killer in the Portland area. So women, men in the Portland area, just be fucking diligent. Just be fucking diligent, because I can't trust the Portland police with my life. And no, I don't live in Portland, but it bugs the fuck out of me.
Also, before we get into the story, I have already spoke to basically every, especially woman that I know, specifically people in the Vancouver, Washington area. Please be careful. Please use the buddy system. I have seen multiple reports via TikTok, is the biggest one, of there have been multiple people, multiple women, different times, different stories, different places throughout Vancouver, Washington, that are reporting that they are getting pictures taken from them. They are getting stalked when they're going to their cars. And it's just it's getting really scary to be by yourself. So please, 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 if you live in that area, please use the buddy system. Please make sure that you are safe. If you have to be by yourself, hold your fucking keys in a way that you can kill a bitch if you need to, or have pepper spray or something. Like I said, I've already talked to everybody that I know that lives in Vancouver, Washington.
Be diligent.
Please, please, please.
And that's not just for Vancouver.
I mean, it's all over, but I personally have just
no
seen
matter
Vancouver
where you
mainly.
live, if you are anybody, female, male, it doesn't matter. You should always be using the buddy system. And if you can't use the buddy system, have something to protect you. I know some people are gun owners. I'm not, so I'm not against it. You want to carry a gun because you have a concealed carry, that's on you. We have had, they have the pepper sprays. They also have these things that are, I don't remember what they're called. They're like cat claws or something. And you can like, you squeeze them and they have these sharp, like nail like things that come out.
And they hold DNA in that.
And they do. So, just be diligent, people. Final fun fact. It's not a fun fact at all, but final thing about the issue with Portland and Vancouver, since they're right next to each other. I don't know if people know this, but there is a large sex trafficking issue in the Portland, Vancouver area because they are really close to an airport. So that also is what's very scary about hearing stuff like that, is taking pictures of somebody could be getting ready to take them and immediately drug them and put them on a flight somewhere else.
It is very easy in Vancouver and Portland to get kidnapped and never be seen again.
Yep. And we know these things because we do our research, people. We're not idiots. And I had a daughter that I had to raise. And actually in Sierra's school when she was growing up, they did have one time an assembly on sex trafficking, which I think should be in every school all the time.
And the thing that was even kind of like good information, but also I kind of feel like wrong audience. Not wrong audience, but kind of wrong audience. I was in middle school. Like, I feel like that, like, again, I'm glad that it was middle school, but like, I also feel like really that should be geared towards high school.
Well, and they need to
because high school's the age that you're going out with your friends. You're 16, you're driving.
No, they do. They need to.
And they didn't talk about that shit.
No, and I wish that the high schools, all schools should have, information.
You have yearly fucking assemblies for every other
for all the
shit
other stuff.
You have yearly assemblies for anti-bullying.
Yeah.
Have yearly assemblies as to why
Absolutely.
You need to use the buddy system, why it's important to make sure that you are contacting people. If y'all motherfuckers don't have it, Life 360, God bless their soul, I will forever and always love Life 360.
Yes.
It is an app that you can download. You can have
free.
a circle of friends.
You
can it's free, or
and
you
no,
can
it's
pay
not
for
an
premium.
ad for Life 360 because we don't have ads yet.
No, but it's just personal, like
personal preference. Life 360 has been a lifesaver for my family.
Because
I'm able to keep track of where people are. If I can't get a hold of them, I can at least see if they're in their phone, in which we all carry our phones on us, if their phone is in a place that I'm like, oh, they must be busy. When my husband travels, if I can't hear from him,
he used to go to LA a lot.
Yeah,
and my mom would mark his work so that it would auto notify her when he got. And you can, when you put that pin, you can make it as big or as small as you want. So like even my brother, when he was going to college and would drive to school, my mom was able to literally like zoom it in to where it was like he had to literally be on the actual school, not the parking lot, the actual fucking school for it to notify her. And if she didn't get a notification within enough time, either A, she'd call him and be like, where the fuck are you? Or B, she'd look a little bit later and maybe he was just late. But yeah, I mean, it obviously works best if your phone is completely charged. If your phone is on low battery, it still will notify. It just takes a little bit longer because it's in low power mode. The only time that you run into that issue is if your phone is dead, but it'll show the last location that you were at.
Yes. So look into that. Anyways, I guess we should get into this. I have this very big feeling. I have this really big. Okay. I'm just going to say, this is going to be a 2-part. So I'm going to just tell you right now, but the beautiful part of our 2 parts is that I don't release them one and then wait a week and release it again. We're going to release both. So this is part 1 of this story. Part 2 will literally be right after this. So you can listen to this one and then the other one will be posted as well the same day. So no worries. 2 parts you don't have to wait for because that drives me crazy. So we are talking about a man named Jeffrey MacDonald. Now, here's what we're talking about. This is the year 1979, and a pregnant woman and her 2 daughters are found murdered. This is in North Carolina, and Jeffrey MacDonald is charged with their murders. So that's what we're talking about. There is so much to unpack with this story. That's why it's going to end up being a 2-parter. So we'll start with, of course, background. So Jeffrey MacDonald was born October 12th, 1943 in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Now, he was the second of 3 children who were born to Robert and Dorothy MacDonald. He was raised in a pretty poor household on Long Island, and his father was big on discipline, but not physically. He demanded obedience, respect, and he demanded that his kids do what the hell he tells him to.
So that they weren't shitheads.
They weren't, yeah. And to me, I have zero problems with that. He wasn't abusive. He was just strict. Now, Jeffrey attended Pachogue Medford High School, and he actually became the president of the student council at the school. He was voted most popular and most likely to succeed. He was also the senior prom king. So overall, he was like super popular. He was very well liked.
Your life went to shit.
Right. He was very well liked. Everybody was like, oh, this guy is great. Now, during his time in high school, he actually meets a woman named Colette Stevenson. Now, in literally just a few weeks, the two of them meet. And then within a couple weeks, they're talking more and more. They become friends. And then eventually they take the next steps and become more than friends. And by the end of ninth grade, they're now boyfriend and girlfriend. However, towards the end of the following summer, Colette actually ends their relationship. No big deal. It's high school fucking relationships. Like, who cares? And Jeffrey moves on to another girl named Penny Wells. So he's just out there doing his normal dating stuff, right? He's a high school student. Now, Jeffrey did relatively well in school, so much so that he actually was able to get a scholarship to Princeton University. And he enrolled as a pre-med student in 1962. So he very much so was very smart. And by his second year of college, Jeffrey and Penny had separated. So the fact that him and Penny were together for quite a couple of years, that's pretty good, right? Yeah, he's in college and he's dating Penny, but they break up. And at the time, it leads him to go back to Colette, the other girlfriend, and they start dating again. And now Colette is actually a freshman at Skidmore College in Sarasota Springs. So they're not going to college together, but they're back together, and they would literally send like love letters and shit to each other. And just like long distance college romance relationship. Also, Jeffrey would actually hitchhike to her college on the weekends to visit. Again, with the fucking hitchhiking, I don't understand. But he came from like a poor family, so I guess he just didn't have a mode of transportation. Now, again,
maybe he had a motorbike.
A motorbike. Now, I want you guys to really take this in when I say this. He's dating Colette. However, during this time, he also is casually dating other women as well at his college. So he has a girlfriend-ish.
So he's cheating.
I don't know. I don't know if they were exclusive. It didn't say that they were technically exclusive. So it could just be that they both were like dating each other and they liked each other. But being that they're in a long distance relationship, they had the ability to date other people if they wanted to. I don't know. Now, in 1963, Colette actually gets pregnant with Jeffrey's child, and she drops out of school. And Jeffrey actually decides, I'm going to stop dating other women and I'm going to marry Colette because she's pregnant.
All right.
Okay.
I could get behind that.
Sure. But I hope you loved her too, because that would be like not a very good way to just, you don't get married because you have children.
Some people do.
So September 14th, 1963, Jeffrey and Colette are married in New York City. They had about 100 people at their wedding. Their reception was held at the Fifth Avenue Hotel, and they actually honeymooned in Cape Cod. So for those of you that don't know, it just kind of sounds like, 100 people at a wedding sounds like a lot, but it's really not. And if they're having their reception in a hotel like area, it sounds to me like they didn't go like above and beyond, and they didn't have a ton of money to spend on this stuff.
Well, it's probably a quick boom, boom, boom.
Right. Now, April 18th, 1964, their daughter, Kimberly Catherine MacDonald, was born. And Jeffrey actually ends up working at this time. He worked in construction for a short amount of time, and it didn't work out so well. So he actually then picks up his whole entire family, and they moved to Chicago in the summer of 1965. Now, he had actually been accepted to the Northwestern University Medical School there. So that's what he was going there for. Because again, he was pre-med, and now he's in a medical school. So he wants to be a doctor. Now they moved their family, the three of them, into a 1-bedroom apartment. And Colette actually is a stay-at-home mom. And then Jeffrey focuses on school, and then he also works multiple different part-time jobs to make ends meet to pay their bills. Now in 1965, their family, the MacDonald family, actually ends up moving into a nicer middle-class neighborhood. So something changed in their finances. My guess would be maybe Jeffrey got a job that made a little bit more money but still allowed him to go to school. Or maybe Colette started doing like working and making money as well. So they were able to move to a little bit nicer of a neighborhood. Then on May 8th, 1967, they actually have their second daughter, Krista Jean MacDonald. Now in 1968, Jeffrey graduates from medical school, and the family relocates to Bergenfield, New Jersey, for Jeffrey to complete a 1-year internship at the Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center. And he actually was specializing in thoracic surgery. So he is full blown, here we go, here's my life. Now, it is described by Jeffrey that this was literally a horrific year for both him and Colette, because he was saying, like, I literally worked 36 hours and I would spend like 12 hours at home like a week. Like, I was not home very often because I was working, which that's about right for residencies and medical doctors, because they just like, they have to do
you have to spend a lot of time.
They have to spend a lot of time, like, and they switch up what they do.
They
like,
do different rotations.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Just because you're specializing in one doesn't mean
you have
just
to do
go
different,
to that one. You have
yeah.
to do different rotations,
Yes.
and then you get to like specialize and just focus on one.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, he said it was really tough on them. And then
That's
during
like my coworker's husband.
Right. It's hard.
He's doing his rotation right now, and I think she said he's in his last year.
Well, and I feel like
and
residencies,
then he's gonna be permanent at wherever he currently is at.
I think that residencies now are even more, because like I said, his was a 1 year. I feel like when I see doctors who are in residency, they're in residency for like 2 or 3 years now. It's not.
I'll say this is gonna like his second or third year.
Yeah, it's not just 1 year, which I appreciate, because it gives them.
I mean, she's worked with me for at least, I think, 2 years.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, because it gives them, at least it gives them some experience,
right?
Better experience, I think. Also during this time, he said that he was so exhausted that he really, on his 12 hours that he was at home, he literally didn't spend it with his family. He didn't spend it with his wife or his kids. He probably just honestly slept. He probably would come home.
I would do.
I'm saying, like, that's
like, not to be an asshole, but
absolutely.
Like I gotta spend so much time awake.
Well, and to be fair,
and patients' lives are in your hands.
if it's only a 1 year commitment, you just buck up and do it for a year.
And
that's
especially with kids being that young,
exactly.
like,
you just kind of deal with it.
It's still in their developmental stages, but it's not
right
the worst.
So then on June 28th, 1969, Jeffrey actually is commissioned into the Army. And I don't know if when they say commissioned, I don't know if they mean he like voluntarily went into the Army or if it was like a draft thing, but I don't think, well, no, I think in the 60s there was a draft. So maybe he was brought into the Army, but he was commissioned into the Army, and he was actually sent to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And he was there to complete a 6-week physician's basic training course, because obviously he's a doctor. So they're bringing him in
utilize you as a doctor.
To be a doctor. Right. So he has a different basic training than like somebody who's just going into the Army for something else. Now, during this time, he also actually volunteers to be part of their Army's Special Forces, the Green Berets. And this was what he was volunteering for, was to become a physician for the Special Forces.
Okay.
So he went through this 6-week boot camp and then says like, hey, if I can make it, if I can cut it, because the Green Berets are like the elite Special Forces squad of the Army. Like, not everybody can be a Green Beret. So I'm sure for him it was like, well, they got to make sure he fits the standard of a Green Beret. But he was like, I'm totally down if you guys are down to let me do it. He is then assigned to Fort Benning, Georgia. And it is in Georgia that he actually completes a paratrooper training course. So he's doing all kinds of things. So he goes to medical school, becomes a doctor, does his residency, goes into the Army, becomes a Green Beret doctor, and now he's being a paratrooper, which is somebody who jumps out of airplanes.
It's great and all, but
fair.
I'm sitting here going, yeah, but you still have a family.
I know.
Like you sound like a bachelor right now.
Right.
You still have responsibilities, my guy.
So then in August of 1969, Jeffrey actually reports to the 3rd Special Forces Group, which was an airborne group in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So this is where he's stationed now, is in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And he is actually the 3rd Special Forces Air Group. So again, Special Forces Green Beret. So he did make it into the Green Berets. Airborne, because he's a paratrooper, he is that group's surgeon. So his literal job is to tend to them in any surgeon type way. He's not their general physician. His literal job is to perform surgeries. Probably his thought, honestly, he had thought that by doing this, he was actually going to go to war, like to Vietnam War, because Vietnam War was going on this time. So he actually thought there was a good chance he was heading to Vietnam. And he found out later that being that he was a Green Beret surgeon physician, that he wasn't actually going anywhere, that his job was literally to stay in the United States, and he would be tending to people, probably because they send them home, right? Like they get hurt, they
probably stabilize
them and then they bring them here, and then his job is to work on them and fix them or whatever. So the MacDonald family actually moves into a home on the base in Fort Bragg, and this base was reserved for married officers only, so not I don't know what the rankings are, but nobody below an officer could live in this area. And because of that, it was protected by military police. It had extra military police security because, again, it's the officers. Okay. Now, they made friends very quickly, and they actually started to literally create a life. Like, they lived their life. By this time, Colette actually had accrued 2 years of studies. She was looking to achieve a bachelor's degree in English literature. Kimberly, so the oldest daughter, was a very feminine, intelligent, very shy girl. And Krista, which was the younger daughter, was super outgoing, and she was actually described as a tomboy. And she was known to protect her sister with her life. Like, she actually would go up and hit somebody if they were doing anything mean or making fun of her sister. She had no qualms about basically being an ass, which I totally appreciate. She was not afraid to stand up for her sister. She was not afraid to stand up for her family. And she was young. Now, on December 10th, 1969, the 3rd Special Forces group that he was a part of was actually deactivated. So they were actually only in the that area for like 5 months. They were only there for 5 months, and then they disbanded the Special Forces group that he was part of. Now, Jeffrey was then transferred to just serve on base. So they didn't have to move. But instead of being part of just that group, he actually was moved to the base, and he served as a preventative medical officer. So now he's more into like just being a doctor on base, meaning that he probably saw soldiers and their families and their children. Like, he was just like a plain doctor at that point. Now, towards the end of 1969, Colette actually discovers that she is pregnant again. And this is actually with their 3rd child, a little boy. And again, a little boy. Like, I'm sure they've got 2 girls, so I'm sure they're very excited about a little boy. Now, it's also discovered on Christmas Day in 1969 that Jeffrey had actually bought a Shetland pony for his girls for Christmas because he was anticipating that the family was actually going to move to a farm in Connecticut. And I don't know if it's because I don't know how like North Carolina and all these places are, but my guess would be either he was anticipating they were moving because he was going to get out of the army, or if it was a close enough drive that he was willing to commute and only had to work certain days. But basically, there was a farm in Connecticut that he absolutely wanted to purchase and buy. And he had all plans of moving the family there. So he bought the girls a pony because it was a farm that they could have this pony. No one knew about the pony, not even Colette. He didn't tell anybody. He just did it. And so what actually happens is he, on Christmas Day, tells them that he wants to take them for a drive, and he drives him and his father-in-law and the girls drive to this, like, where do they keep horses?
Like an equestrian?
Yeah, but it's not. They call it like they actually
a farm.
No. There's it's like a place where you board horses. I just don't remember what it's called.
Fuck if I know. Horse boarding.
I'm just gonna have to say that. So they drive to this boarding facility for horses, and
stables.
Stables. Thank you. Oh my God, I couldn't remember. So he drives to these stables, and he doesn't tell them that there's a pony there for them. What he had told them, they were gonna go and ride horses for Christmas. Well, when they get there, he brings them to this Shetland pony, and the girls, he tells them like, oh, this pony is yours. It's going to live here for now, but we're going to have our own farm someday, blah, blah, blah. The girls were so excited. Like, it was a big thing. And Colette was just like, what the actual fuck? You didn't tell me this, right? So that's not a very nice thing to do. Now, during this month of December, Colette had actually written to a friend, and she had told that friend that life where she was not really that normal, and she wasn't really that happy in the moment of where they were living and how their life was going. But she did say that she was content. She wasn't happy, but she was content, which means she was like satisfied with her life. And she said her husband was content. So they were just kind of like living life, like kind of like floating through life, because they weren't in this happiness, which I'm assuming the reason this letter was written was because people just assume that they've reached this all-time high because he's this doctor and they're in the military and all these things. And she's like, no, it's not that great. Now they do, she also tells this person in the letter that she was pregnant and that she was going to have a baby boy in July. And once the baby boy came, their family would be what she considered complete, finally. And by 1970, so early 1970, Jeffrey had earned to the rank of captain, and he was actually planning on studying advanced medical training at Yale. So he's still like trying to do his thing. Okay, so now we're going to get into the murder. Now, the way that we're doing this, I'm literally just going to tell you the murder scene, and it kind of starts out with the like what was found. I'm not going to tell you like all the things. I'm just going to tell you what was found. So on February 16th, 1970. So please remember that I just told you that he became captain in early 1970. So this is still early. Like he just became captain not too long ago. So Jeffrey on February 16th, 1970 brings his daughters to the stables to feed and ride their Shetland pony. Now they return home around 5:45 p.m. Jeffrey showers, changes into pajamas, and the family eats dinner. Now, Colette actually leaves the house because she's going to go attend a night class. And I actually think that her night class was she was helping teach the night class. I don't know if she was necessarily learning it. I don't know if she was teaching or whatever. She was going to somewhere to do a night class. And so Jeffrey was left home with the kids. Now, according to Jeffrey, at this point, he actually played with his girls and like hung out with them for a little bit. And then he put Kristen to bed at 7 p.m. And then he put Krista to bed at 7 p.m., which is the younger. And then Kimberly, who's the older daughter, stayed up with him. And she actually was playing at the coffee table in their living room. Well, while she's playing at the coffee table, he's kind of sitting on the couch and he ends up falling asleep. And he said he woke up and it had been like an hour since he basically had last looked at the clock. And he was like, I woke up and I was like, oh man, it's a little bit later. And then he said that he sat there and watched the TV show Laugh In with Kimberly because it was Kimberly's most favorite show. That's what she stayed up for. And then after Kimberly and him watched it, Kimberly went to bed. Now, Colette comes home at 9:40 p.m. from her night class. And he says that the couple sat and watched TV until Colette actually chooses to go to bed in the middle of the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. He was like, yeah, she was like, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. And she got up, went into the bedroom, laid down. Now, Jeffrey says that he actually stayed out there and finished watching the Johnny Carson show, but actually fell asleep while watching the show on the couch. Now, at 3:42 a.m. on February 17th, 1970, dispatchers at Fort Bragg receive an emergency call from Jeffrey. And his call says, help, 534 Castle Drive, stabbing, 534 Castle Drive, stabbing, hurry. And then the phone falls. The lady or the dispatcher said that she heard the phone hit the ground, like clatter on the ground, like it didn't hang up, it hit the ground, like she could hear it. So then 10 minutes later, the military police, because remember, this is on a base that is protected, highly protected by military police. So 10 minutes later,
obviously if it's happening on base or even in the homes, they're not going to get normal police. They're going to get the military police.
So 10 minutes later, the
MPs.
Military police show up at the home. And when they show up there, their immediate thought is this is a domestic disturbance dispute, right? That's your first thought because that's what you hear. Well, when they get there, the house is completely dark. There's silence. There's nothing. They go to the front door and the front door is closed and it's locked. They look through the windows. They can't see anything because it's dark. They knock on the door. Nobody answers. And they're like, what the fuck? And they're standing there for like a few minutes going, okay, this is weird. So they go to the back of the home because they're like, okay, let's see, is there any way we can get in the back? And they find that when they get to the back of the home that the back screen door is closed, but it's unlocked and the actual back door is completely open. So they're like, okay, this is strange. So they go into the home. And actually, when they go into the home, they actually find Colette is on the floor in her bedroom. And she is on her back with one eye open and one breast exposed. And she had been beaten really badly. And it is actually later discovered that both of her forearms had been broken. Your forearms.
Damn.
Now, the medical examiner actually thinks this was due to her trying to protect herself by putting her arms up like in a defensive motion. She had been stabbed 21 times in the chest with an ice pick, 16 times in the neck and chest with a knife, and her trachea had been severed in 2 places. And a bloody, torn pajama top was draped over her body with a paring knife sitting next to her body. This is where we're going to stop. We're going to stop right here. So no worries. Basically, we're going to stop right here. You're going to hear our outro music. And then if you just like whatever platform you're looking or listening to, you will see it'll say Jeffrey MacDonald Part 2, just click play and we'll pick up right from where we left off. So